And the more that you love, the more you allow love in and love out, the energy starts rippling through your heart. When was the last time that you loved on yourself and you gave yourself a massage? It's almost like the answer is hidden in plain sight this whole time, that you are the healer, guru, shaman, and medicine woman of your own experience. Welcome to the Deja Blu podcast, where we believe that living a life of magic can be the default. Join us each week as we playfully and authentically dive into the mysteries of life and explore what it truly means to be human. From spirituality, wellness, and all things taboo, we don't hold anything back. So without further ado, let's let the magic unfold. So before we get on with the rest of today's episode, there is something I want to quickly share with you, which is a company called Charge, and they just so happen to have beamed into my reality and created practical solutions for my everyday woes. And one of those everyday woes is the amount of EMF and radiation we are absorbing on a daily basis, whether it's through our cell phone or our laptops or the TV or the Wi-Fi. I can literally feel the warmth of the radiation absorbing into my thighs when I'm on my laptop, and it gives me this tingling sensation. Well, fear not, because Charge has a product pretty much for everything that emanates radiation. One of those products that I'm going to talk about today is this EMF radiation blocking mat. I put this on my lap before I start working on my laptop, and instantly my headaches, my body fatigue, my inflammation, everything is noticeably down. So I'm so grateful for this company. You should go check them out because they have an onslaught of products, from earphones to hats to blue blocking glasses to red light therapy. So head on over to boncharge.com, boncharge.com/blue, because they have graciously given my audience through the Deja Blu podcast 15% off your order to support you with finding practical solutions in your everyday life. Now, without further ado, let's get back on with today's episode. Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to another episode of the Deja Blu podcast. Today, again, we have another solo episode. I spoke about this in the last episode that I did, that y'all have been asking, and by the way, I'm using the word y'all now, by the way. I'm English, but yeah, I've been in America for over a decade, and here I am using the word y'all. So y'all really like when I do the solo episodes, and that's sort of the feedback that I've got. So we're going to be doing a little bit more solo episodes. However, how the solo episodes are sort of like flowing is that I pose a question on Instagram, like a little question box that says, if you have a subject that you'd like me to talk about, please write it in the question box. And then I go over all of the ones that have been put in the suggestions, and then I pick out the ones that A, I like, and B, that are reoccurring. So the sort of like a general theme of what people want to hear me talk about. And of course, obviously, everything that I'm sharing is very authentic and dear to my heart, while simultaneously being able to create a little bit of intimacy with each podcast, where there's an opportunity to have a little bit of a dialogue, even though, yes, I am speaking into a lifeless camera in my studio set. However, through the means of social media with Instagram, I have the opportunity to be able to hear from you what it is that are your burning questions. And also taking into account that a lot of you ask questions that I don't know what my thought is in that, or I'm not super solid in my decision on that yet. And so there'll be things that I won't address because I don't want to address something just for the sake of making sounds and addressing something that you brought up. There's so many things that I still am learning and understanding and unpacking, and I don't want to bring anything to the table that doesn't feel embodied to a degree. Of course, there's always going to be a learning, and there's not going to be like I figured this out and this is it for the rest of my life, but it's more so like a continuous learning, but at least embodied and applied on a daily basis. That is something that I feel confident in being able to speak into. So definitely want to bring this embodiment piece. But on today's episode, we're going to be covering a few different topics. So get yourself comfortable, sweetheart. If you're going on a walk with the dogs, or you're sitting at home, or you're driving to work, just know, yes, I'm grateful for you magical fucking being. Okay, so today I've got my laptop on my lap. I feel professional. Like I've seen so many other podcasters that sit with like an iPad or a laptop and they like read over their notes. I've never done that. But here we are. If you're watching this now, you will see that I am a professional lady. And not only am I a professional lady, but I also have new glasses, reading glasses. Yes, that is right. I've put them on and now I can see everything. It merely slightly, I don't know, kind of scary a little bit that I don't hear or see very well. I'm definitely going to tune into Helen Keller and her energy and like funnel some of her wisdom of the way that she navigated the world. But definitely as my hearing is like doing its thing and my eyesight starting to do its thing. I was on the phone with my mum the other day and she was like, oh, you're getting wrinkles on your forehead. Have you ever considered Botox? I was like, oh, yeah, what? When did this happen? Like, I'm getting old? Like, shit. Come on. I feel like I'm in my prime. No, let's go. All right. So one of the questions that I got was being a single lady, or it was more so like a please can you jive on this topic, and being single and learning how to choose yourself. Now, to give a little bit of context, I have been in a relationship for the past 7.5 years, back to back, and I realized that a lot of my time when I wanted to be validated from the outside in, I just lent on my relationship. And there it was, right at an arm's reach, validation. I didn't need to do it for myself. I didn't need to validate myself or fill in those little lonely gaps with my own energy. I quite often abandoned myself, but then filled it in from something external and didn't have to really address this piece because I was, for the most part, in very loving relationships. I was very blessed for the most part. All right, there was one experience that was thrown into the mix. I'm not going to go too deeply into it, but wasn't a very positive experience. And so I definitely learned a lot of like growing up in that experience. But for the most part, I've had very loving, kind relationships. And so I haven't really had to sit as this iteration of myself in the void, in the nothingness, in the late at night, can't sleep, 2 a.m, laying there and just snuggling a pillow. What does it mean to fill in those little spots where loneliness could creep in with empowerment, with validation from self, with an opportunity of not neglecting myself in those moments? And I have learned a lot about not neglecting myself with my hearing journey. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast and you've been on this journey with me for 3 years since episode 1, you're gonna know all about this. I don't want to sound like a broken record. So if you are new to the journey, if this is the first episode you've ever listened to and you're like, I don't know what this lady's talking about, go back and listen to the earlier episodes and go on this journey with me. I promise you will not regret it. I believe that you will learn something. You will expand a little bit. You'll come deeper into your own empowerment if you give yourself the gift of going on the journey of the Deja Blu podcast. I feel very confident in that. But for those of you that are new, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a brief update. About a decade ago, my brother and I were diagnosed with a hereditary hearing they would call a disorder. I'm also really mindful of the words that I choose to use around what it is that I'm telling myself. And a disorder or loss or incapability or any of those kind of words for me are very charged. And so what I'm more so navigating it into is my hearing gain, in the sense, yes, my hearing is doing its damn thing and I'm gaining a lot out of the experience when I can allow myself to soften into the gift of it. Now, of course, the only way that I could soften into the gift of it was to actually feel the entirety of the grief of it and to allow myself to not spiritually bypass or toxic positivity my way out of feeling immense amount of sadness and grief around losing a sense, quote unquote, losing a sense. And so what I have learned in those moments is I will be in public situations or spaces and, for example, be sitting at a table with some really big, powerful players, right? Like people that have big voices, large impact. And I'm sitting at this table and I've been put in this position. All of a sudden, everyone's chatting away and I can't hear shit. I'm literally like, I have no idea what these people are saying right now. And everyone's laughing. And then all I'm left with is my internal dialogue. And my internal dialogue is beating the shit out of myself in the sense of, you're unworthy to be in this space. What are you doing? If you're not contributing anything, then you're not worthy to be here. You need to get out now before anybody realizes who you actually are. Like all this just like deep, awful feelings about what it is that I'm navigating, where I feel like because of a sense, I'm limited for being able to interact with what's going on in my external reality. And I noticed that I was neglecting myself in those moments. Instead of filling myself with, it's okay, you navigate the world differently. It's okay for you to have needs, honor your needs, allow yourself to actually honor what it is that you need right now, as opposed to doing what you think the space needs. And instead of doing that, I was like a full neglecting of myself. And so, of course, that applies to many different areas of my life, whether it's I'm in a space and I can't hear what's going on and I've neglected myself internally, or if I'm no longer in a relationship and I'm single and I'm laying in bed and the internal conversation is, you're so unlovable. No one would want to date you with your hearing experience. Like, you're going to be alone forever. You're never going to have kids. Like, holy shit. There's an asshole that lives in my brain. We don't like it. Why is the asshole there? Where did the asshole come from? And who the fuck gave the asshole the keys to my consciousness? When did this start? Why is it here? And also recognizing that pretty much everybody I know has an inner asshole. Yes, we all have an actual asshole, but we also have an inner asshole. There's like there's a being that's in there that's like, imagine if you had someone that actually was in your life and spoke to you the way that your inner critic speaks to you. You would be like, get the fuck out of my house. But for some reason, when it's inside of our unconsciousness, we become accustomed to it, and then it just becomes a nature of our own being. And so sometimes I like to give a character to the internal voices that are going on in my head, kind of like Inside Out, that children's Pixar movie by, Pixar, I think it was. And all the different voices have different characters, and I like to give those voices different characters, because what it does is it actually allows me to detach from the stories and the voices, recognizing a lot of them didn't even start with me, but maybe I was exposed to them at a young age that then became my voice, but it was more inherited. And once they become sort of characters, then I can actually have like a conversation and a dialogue with them and question their validity, as opposed to just believing all of my thoughts. And I think that was one of the biggest teachings for me around thoughts, was don't believe them all. I think for a long time, I believed all of my thoughts, and that was excruciatingly painful, because ultimately we have whatever is the experience is subjective to whatever we project onto it. And depending on what you're feeling in the internal moment, in the moment of the mood, or what it is that you ate that day, or who you surrounded yourself with, or did you watch a horror movie to start the day, then it's going to shift your frequency into a certain way of perceiving the experience. And therefore, then you place a story overlapping that experience of how it is you're perceiving that experience. And then you believe your thoughts of the truth of the capital T, that this is the way that it is. But actually, we're living in this sort of mirage of stories, and reframing the stories we tell ourselves in our head is the ultimate key to freedom. When you rewrite the story you're placing on why that person did that, or why this person said this, or why this guy showed up the way that he did, when you can rewrite it as a new narrative, that is the way that you can actually create freedom within your own experience and softening your body. And as Richard Rudd has talked about, and I've mentioned this multiple times on the podcast, is that a series of softening is the way to awareness. A series of softening is the way to enlightenment. A series of softening is the way to a higher state of consciousness. It's not in tightening. It's not in rejecting. It's not in judging or blaming or division. It's in a softening into whatever is. And Reverend Brianna Lynn would say to me, the most sacred thing is what is. Anyways, without going too far off on a tangent around my original point, what would it look like to be single and to not neglect oneself? And I found that life in general is a series of micro moments. And what I mean by that is that we look at Instagram Reels, for example, and we see people on Instagram and we see their highlight moments. But for them to get a highlight moment, it had to be like a million micro moments to get to that point. Now, we don't see the a million micro moments. We just see the highlight with a filter on, with some music playing. So literally everyone's lives look like a movie, and ours looks like dog took another shit on the rug, and I'm sitting here soaking up the diarrhea off of the rug while I'm waiting for my roommate to come back so that we can have a chat about it. Right? Like, that's actually a million micro moments, and then we get these champagne moments. But what's happening is that we're comparing ourselves with these like illusionary experiences anyway, and realizing actually to create champagne popping moments is to be present in the million micro moments. And in those million micro moments, what would it look like to not neglect yourself? Now, this is actually paving the path of a beautiful life, is to recognize the magic in the mundane, and to, in the in-between moments, to actually start creating a new narrative internally that's actually rooted in a place of empowerment and a deep place of love. So what I started realizing in this space of being single was that I am not opening myself up, nor am I ready for another relationship until I become my own best friend. Because that's actually really what it is that I'd like to contribute into the relationship, in the sense of this relationship is enhancing my experience, but I don't need it to know myself from a place of love. I don't need this person to be in a good mood for me to feel good. This person can be human and I'm good because I got my own back. And that having my own back is found in the micro moments when I'm feeling lonely, laying in bed at night, being single. So if we can actually have a forward momentum understanding that the future is written in the present moment, and the present moment is filled with lots of micro moments, and who I am being internally to myself is what's actually forging the future of what's to come. So for me, it was bringing it to the forefront of my awareness, not just something that was unconsciously running, but it was bringing to the forefront of my awareness, where am I neglecting myself? So when I can hear in a situation when I'm sitting in a room full of really powerful people, it does not even have to be powerful people. Everyone's powerful in their own right. But like just being in a space where I feel like I'm supposed to contribute something, to be validated, to be validated for being in the space. What would it look like to recognize that my presence alone is enough? My presence alone is enough. Your presence alone is enough. When you hear me say that sentence, is there any part of you that doesn't believe it? Is there any part of you that thinks, unless I'm contributing, unless I'm showing how brilliant I am, unless I have this amount of followers, unless I have this amount of money, unless I do live in this house, or unless I look like this, or I've got this, gained this body, or I whatever it is that's outside of ourselves, placing our happiness or our worth in something external, in some far off timeline, creates a really slippery slope for our relationship with ourselves, because we're constantly searching for something that can only be found in the present moment within. Happiness placed in some future timeline is in the gene keys of the shadow of expectation. It's called waiting at expectation station. When I get the boyfriend, then I'll be happy. When I get the next paycheck, then I'll be happy. When I move into the next house, then I'll be happy. When I lose 10 pounds, then I'll be happy. This is one of the slipperiest of slopes when it comes to worthiness, self-love, and rooted in recognizing that nothing in a future timeline or outside of yourself holds the happiness which can only be activated from softening deeper into the most sacred thing is what is, and learning to love if you have grief right now, and actually allowing yourself to give yourself the privilege of your own process. That is also self-love. What does it look like to give yourself the privilege of your own process, and detaching from what it's supposed to look like from the outside in and starting to live from the inside out? So for me, this time has been a detection that I still was validating myself based off of the way that other people showed up for me. And that was something that I was ready to renegotiate with. That the relationships are going to change, they're going to come and they're going to go. However, the only person that I have to live with for the rest of my life is myself. Literally it. This is it. This relationship that I was in didn't last forever. In my head, I had this story that there's the one and we're going to be together forever. But actually, that was creating more suffering than necessary, recognizing that this person is a gift, but not a given. Every single person in our life is a gift, not a given. Every single friend is a gift, not a given. We are on borrowed time here on planet Earth. The one common thing, and I don't mean to sound like doomsday blue right now, but the one common thing, we have multiple common things, but the one main common thing that we have as humans is that we're all going to pass away from this life. And nothing that we have accumulated, material things, relationships, body, clothes, whatever it is, none of that's going to go with us. What will be left is how you made people feel. What will be left is all of the things that you allowed yourself to heal within your own psyche, within your own body, that was potentially passed on from your lineage, which then is no longer passed on if you were to have children. That's something you could leave, is actually liberation of the next generation, because you decided to face off with all the shit that you didn't want to look at. That's something also that is left. But all of these things that we place our happiness in that lives outside of the present moment is an illusion. It's called waiting at expectation station. It's the shadow of expectation. The gift of detachment, and the siddhi, the highest expression of the highest expression, that's what the siddhi is in the gene keys, is celebration. We cannot be in the celebration of the present moment when we're living in the expectation that our happiness lies somewhere else. It's actually found now in the little mundane moments. And can we actually make peace with the mundane? Can we give ourselves the gift of celebrating doing the dishes? I saw something the other day. It was like a meme about, it was a picture of dishes. PS memes, my love language. So there's also that. And I saw a meme of the picture of the dishes, and it says, everybody wants to do ayahuasca, but nobody wants to do the dishes. Facts. So who you are when you do the dishes is who you are when you sit in an ayahuasca ceremony, PS, because you can't escape yourself, and yourself is formed in the in-between mundane moments. So who are you being in those individual mundane moments? And what would it look like to actually start creating a new narrative that you are inherently worthy just by being you? From the moment you entered into this life, you are already worthy. Whoosh. Just by being you. Who would have thought, huh? So I made a new commitment to myself that I was never going to neglect myself ever again. And if I do, catch it. To catch when I'm neglecting myself, to catch when I'm beating myself up, because I think that is what the journey of self-awareness is not that shit doesn't hit the fan. It's not that you don't feel angry or rage. It's not that you transmuted these emotions and you've forever evolved past the humanness of being alive. It's about that you become so self-aware when they present themselves that they're no longer running from a blind spot and therefore causing havoc in your life. That's what it means to become self-aware, is that you can't get away with your own bullshit. And one of the pieces around bullshit is neglecting yourself, feeling deeply inherently unworthy because of X, Y, and Z. It's bullshit because it's an illusion. It's an illusion because by being born and just by being you with your own unique fingerprint and the amount of lives that you've had to live for you to be meticulously who you are today is a freaking miracle. You are a walking miracle and a unique piece of art that nobody has ever seen before and no one will ever see again. You are inherently worthy just by being alive. So any belief system that is placed into your psyche that says you're unworthy and is placing it in looking for relationships is going to create a slippery slope, because it's going to either feed codependent or avoidant. That's a whole different topic in itself. But anyways, this is really one of the questions that came in, or the statements of talking about being a single woman and learning to choose myself. So it's got to the point now where I'm like, God, I love my alone time so much. I love being alone so much that now I have a really high standard for the people I choose to hang out with, because they've got to either be as fun as being alone or even more fun than being alone. But being alone is so good. It's so good that I actually am really not trying to hang out with a lot of people. And I think that when I was in my maiden phase of my life, the maiden being thinking that the grass is greener on the other side, super whimsical, lots of energy, has lots of friends, kind of flaky, doesn't really follow through, right? And moving into the mother archetype, which is a little bit more rooted and present in what is here and nourishing the grass beneath my feet, as opposed to thinking that it's somewhere else where happiness lies, and to create projects that last and require a lot of devotion and don't just come from instant gratification, but come from time and effort and presence over a prolonged period of time. This is the mother archetype. I started realizing I actually don't want a lot of friends. I have my 5 humans and I'm so good with them. We have gone through so many deaths and rebirths. We've witnessed each other in the sacred shit, the sacred crunchy and the sacred fun and joy and play and everything else in between. And it's got to the point now where I'm not trying to water 150 different houseplants and keep everybody alive and keep everybody satisfied and make sure everybody's good. It's actually just about aligning with those that really feel like home in physical form without even saying a single word. One of the most underrated forms of intimacy is to sit in in the same room with somebody else and not saying anything. It's such a gift. Is to nourish the ones that really are there for you, that really care, that speak your name in a room full of opportunities when you're not physically present. They are the humans that love on them so good. Love on them so good. Take care of them like you would your favorite houseplant, just loving on it and talking to it and making sure you're investing your time into it. So that's something that's it's really alive for me right now, is just taking care of the humans that are close to me and first and foremost, never neglecting myself anymore, and really making a new commitment and what it means to actually put a wedding ring on my own damn finger. Yeah, if you like it, then you should put a ring on it. I'm like, okay, I didn't like it for a while. I like it now. it being me, I'm going to put a ring on my wedding finger because I'm my own damn self, yo. Shit, I got to live with myself for the rest of my life. I may as well be nice to me. You know what I mean? Another question was like how to set up a sacred space to drop into like a solo ceremony, a solo experience, whether it's you're working with plant medicines or it is that just like a solo like meditation or breath work. There's so much power in that, or even just prayer. There is so much power about just being mindful with your presence and your attention in your prayer. But some like things that I do behind the scenes that I haven't talked about really publicly of the way that I set up ceremony space. So I'll use the other night as an example. It was a full moon in Pisces. It was actually a super blue full moon. That was exciting. And I set up my balcony and I put like a cloth down, like a beautiful like blanket down on the floor. I had a table, and on the table I put photos of my family. So my mother as a baby, my 5-year-old self, because that's the only person you ever need to impress for the rest of your life. P.S. is your 5-year-old self. It's the only person you ever need to impress for the rest of your life is your 5-year-old self. So I have this photo of me as a 5-year-old self. I have my grandparents on the altar, and then I have a photo of my mother as a child. And it's a photo of her where she's like smiling and laughing, and she's just so happy. I think she's about 5 as well. And it's just that moment that's encapsulated her joy and her celebration. And it's an energy that I want to keep praying into. So they're the pieces that I have, or the pictures that I have on the altar. And then because it was a full moon, what I like to do is we call it moon water or moon juice. And so I get a big mason jar of water and I put it in the middle of like a crystal grid that I create. And that's all intuitive. So like which crystals I pick. I like to leave my crystals out under a full moon because they get charged under a full moon. And I put the mason jar of water in the center, and then I have crystals around the outside of the mason jar, all pointing in towards the mason jar. So they're getting charged by the moon and then redirecting the energy into the moon water, which is also being charged by the full moon. So I leave the moon water out on the altar, got the photos, and then I'll usually pull some cards, whether they're oracle cards or tarot cards, to set the space. And then I get really clear on the intention. If you don't have an intention as to why you're dropping into your internal landscape or your inner world or just going into that place of richness for yourself, then it's like loading a bent arrow into a bow and expecting it to hit the target. Like if you go into these kind of experiences without an intention, then you don't have a why. So what is the direction? You're kind of just flinging yourself out into the all and ever has been, anything that ever will be, all at the same time. So what would it look like if you actually loaded a straight arrow into the bow? You may more likely hit the target. So that is intention. So what is your intention? Why are you sitting with the full moon? What is the energetics of the full moon? Do you know what the Pisces energy means? Do you have a relationship with understanding what the moon does to the tides of the planet? What the moon does to the waters on this earth, which is also over 70% of our body. It's also directly linked with our emotions because the element of water is directly linked with our emotions. And so what is it that's bringing up for us? If it's a full moon, then she's got way more power over the emotions that are in our body pulling up to the surface. And with the full moon, what we do is we release that's not serving. In a new moon, we plant seeds. In a full moon, we release. We allow ourselves to move it out. And so with the full moon, I like to drop into a solo experience. And for me, like I said, I have the altar. I got my moon juice, my moon water. I've got my intentions. I got clear on my intention. I asked some questions to the cards. I put the cards out. I then will lay down or have my blanket, my pillow, and an eye mask. And I have a beautiful playlist that really just allows me to just soften into the energy. And I choose the playlist depending on what it is that my intention is, what it is that I'm feeling. But usually it's some sort of I have a playlist called The Empress Journaling. And it's just like a really nice sort of medallic. There's certain words that I just can't say on this podcast. Melodic. Where would I be without Bernadette? An illiterate podcaster. And it just drifts me off into this really beautiful landscape. And I pray. And a lot of people have asked also in the Q&A that I posted is, how do you pray? Or what are your prayers? Or how do you construct them? And for me, a prayer is something that is not separate from life. Every single day is a prayer. When I dress myself, it's a prayer. When the way that I speak to myself in the mirror, it's a prayer. We are always consciously or unconsciously manifesting. We are manifesting based off what it is that we're emanating. So yes, worrying may give us something to do, but it's not going to take us forward in life. It's like sitting on a rocking horse. It's like, I'm going to worry. I'm not actually moving forward. But when you worry, you're praying for that you don't want. So when we actually start to shift our relationship to prayer, as opposed to we've got to go to a church and then there's a priest and the priest is between us and God and the priest tells us what the word of God was so that we can actually relate, to have this some sort of hierarchical system, patriarchal construct in our own psyche that says that there's something between us and our higher self, or us and God, where actually prayer is a relationship with recognizing that I am constantly in conversation with God, whether you're religious or not. It's in conversation with the same thing that created this planet. You can't deny that there is something that created all of this. The hummingbird, the fruit, the flower, our physical bodies, the most mind-blowing quantum computers of miraculous capabilities that exist. So we are in relationship with something greater than ourselves. And the prayer is recognizing we're in a vibratory reality. Every single thought holds a vibrational charge. Every single word holds a vibrational charge. When we put them together in an intentional way and we pray, you're in conversation with something greater than yourself and you're calling in that more of which you're emanating. So you won't ever hear me speak about the words of things that I hate. I can share things that I dislike, that I would like to shift in my reality, but it will be a very rare occurrence that you'll hear the words "I hate this" come out of my mouth, very intentionally. So the opposite of that is to pray. And so, for example, under the full moon, it is the Pisces full moon. It was the Pisces full moon. So that's all about healing. And it's the healer energy. And I realized that I do a lot of hands-on healing for other people, specifically people close to me. And I don't direct that energy back inwards. And I have been like outward facing. Our eyeballs are literally set outward facing on our bodies. So when you feel love, you give it to somebody. When you feel excitement, you share the excitement with somebody. But it's quite rare in my own personal experience that when I'm feeling all this healing energy, I'm like, I'm going to give it to me for a moment. And so this was an opportunity for me to actually go, hey, I have healing hands. I know that. I feel that. I've been reflected that over and over and over again. And I've seen miracles happen within certain spaces that I have been in when there's a healing mat. So I set up the intention to send that healing energy back into myself. And what I have learned around healing energy, first and foremost, is available to everybody. It's almost like an additional feature of what it means when you get given a body, when you incarnate onto this planet, is that you have hands that are connected to your heart. And the more that you love, the more you allow love in and love out, the energy starts rippling through your heart, out your hands. And your hands become hot. If you'd like to have an example of your hands becoming hot or energy that is activated in your hands, just give yourself a gift of rubbing your hands together for 30 seconds and feel the heat that is charged and generated from the hands. And then feel the heat and then place it on your own body. And just feel how that feels for a second. It's almost like the answer is hidden in plain sight this whole time, that you are the healer, guru, shaman, and medicine woman of your own experience. And you have an opportunity to actually activate the power that is sitting dormant if you're not been using it or activating it out of your hands and out into yourself. When was the last time that you actually gave yourself Reiki? And you don't need to be a Reiki practitioner. Reiki is just like universal energy medicine. It is allowing it to move through you. You don't have to be trained to use your hands. When was the last time that you loved on yourself and you gave yourself a massage? When was the last time when you had pain in your body, instead of going directly to a masseuse or an acupuncturist or looking online to find someone that's going to help you, to actually place your attention, your intention to melt that area of tension in your body by using your own hand and the power and the heat that flows out of your heart? So what I like to do is to open up the ceremony space as I pray. And prayer, like I said, is so important, is your intention. And my prayer is usually a series of words that are just calling in or setting the space. So I call in beings or guides or angels or people that I relate to, whether they're present or the past, for their assistance in my healing experience. And for me, my guides are the lions. They have me they give me the courage to be oneself unapologetically and not to follow the rest of the crowd. To allow myself to be an illuminated leader and give myself the permission to no longer fear being successful. I think that's also a big piece. That's a whole thing. That's a whole topic in itself, the fear of being successful. And I call in my grandmother. My grandmother was the one that taught me Reiki. She used to do Reiki on me when I was a kid. And she she would come in, and I call her in by her name. I ask for her to be present with me to support with my healing journey. I like to call in any previous teachers that I have worked with that really resonate with me, that have a really beautiful expression or mastery that could be really supportive in the space. And I ask their permission for them to come be with me during this healing experience. This is kind of how my prayer works, is I set the grid, I set the space. And then I set the intention in the prayer. Something along the lines of, and you could call spirit or beloved or God or whatever your name you place on something greater than yourself. Please, spirit, support me in activating my hands at the optimum capacity of healing. Open up my heart and release any contract that I have made consciously or unconsciously that is stopping love flowing in and out of my heart. May the heart energy flow through my hands so that I can actually heal myself, recognizing that I have the power to do so. And any belief system that is saying otherwise, may it be transmuted out of this space. These are just incredible intentions through the prayer. So it's calling in who you want to be with, saying your intentions in the middle of the prayer. And then I like to close it out with gratitude. Thank you so much for this beautiful full moon and the opportunity that I have, the privilege that I have to spend this time loving on myself tonight. Thank you so much for whoever it is that I called into the space, my grandmother, my grandfather, my mother, my father, whoever it is that was called present. Thank you for my 5-year-old self that is constantly my greatest inspiration and my guide when I'm feeling like I've lost my way. Thank you so much for this beautiful music that is catering this evening for me to be able to soften my nervous system, to allow myself to relax into the most beautiful thing, what is. And thank you so much for this moon, and thank you for this water that's going to become medicine, literally going to become medicine. It's going to be charged by all these crystals, it's going to be charged by the full moon overnight, and it's going to be surrounding me in this ceremony. And then when I wake up first thing in the morning, drinking the water. And from that place of gratitude, I close out the prayer. And then that's when I usually will go into the ceremony and the experience. And I'm guided. Every single time is different. This time it was a lot of work on my ears and my hearing, and a lot of like allowing myself to get witchy and weird and wild. And that's why I like cellular ceremonies, because no, ain't nobody gonna be looking at me like I'm like, oh, okay, I need to shake my body. Even someone's like, is she going through like cardiac arrest? Like, are we okay? And I'm over there like, oh, it's just a shamanic tool of transmuting dense energy. You know how like animals shake in the wild, like they get attacked, like a gazelle has been attacked by a lion, and the gazelle gets free, and the gazelle just shakes it off and then gets on with its damn day, right? But humans, well, we don't shake it off. We hold it and we carry it. We identify with it, and we feed into our unworthiness, so we get caught up in the story of it. And so sometimes in these spaces, specifically in these healing spaces, it's really nice for me to shake my body, just shake it out. And instead of worrying about what it looks like from somebody else, allowing myself to soften deeper into how does it feel in my body to shake it out? How does it feel to move this energy through my body? And so that is a little bit of how I set up my sacred space. And then I pulled a card that felt like it represented the next chapter in my journey, and I took that card and I put it on top of the mason jar of moon water, and then I didn't read the description of the card till the next morning to start my day, to start the day of how I would like to start and push the first domino for the rest of the day. And when I took the next morning, I took the card off the top of the moon water. I said thank you into this magical, I almost looked at this like moon water as if it was like the most magical juice potion ever, and it was going to illuminate my body, and it was going to fill me up from the inside out with this bioluminescent light that touches every 75 trillion cells of my body and my being. And then I drink the moon water in gratitude. And then I read the description of the card, and then I started my day, following in and allowing the ceremony to continue to ripple into my everyday life. Because the greatest ceremony that we live in, the greatest ceremony that there is life. It's such a ceremony. Holy shit, it's such a ceremony. Whoa. Do you ever have like existential moments where you just like look at a friend and you're like, why are we here? And do you remember signing up for this? Like, we all just kind of like collectively landed here, and then we're all trying to pretend like we know what the fuck is going on. Like, I don't have any cognitive memory as to why I chose to come to planet Earth, nor do I have any real understanding on the grand scale of things of what the heck is happening here. I'm figuring out every single day as I go along. But when you have those moments and you nudge your friend, you're like, yo, life is so weird. So it's like, yeah, it's weird. There's beautiful moments and there's a lot of what the fuck moments. Like, what is even happening anymore? So that is one of the pieces around how I would set up a personal ritual or ceremony. And then there's one final piece that I want to share. I recently had a very powerful experience with a psychic. Now, I've never actually gone to a psychic before. I have done astrology readings. I've done jinky readings. I have gone to tarot. I've had a tarot reading before, but I've never actually had a powerful psychic experience. And Andre reached out to me and he was like, Blue, I had this psychic reading. It was insane. They mentioned you. They mentioned some other things in it. They said you by name. She didn't even know who you are. Like, there was like multiple pieces that were mentioned. It's like, it says my grandmother's name. Now, my curiosity's like, okay, my ears prick up. I'm like, give me this lady's number, yo. And he's like, but listen, she's really difficult to get a hold of. She has like thousands of text messages that come in on a daily basis. Doesn't have a website. She's like totally under the radar. But if you can like just stay patient with her, you'll get a reading if it's meant to be. And I was like, well, I trust. I'm gonna slide right in there. So I sent her a message. She responded almost immediately. And then we set up a time to speak. And then she wasn't there. And then I scheduled another time with her. And then she didn't show up again. And I'm starting to get like, lady, I am busy. Like, come on, mama. I got like, I'm setting things aside to have these meetings. But I remember what Andre said was like, be patient and just let it unfold the way that it's meant to. It's like, okay. So by the third time, it was a charm. And we ended up jumping on the phone. And she's like this older lady that has like a really strong New York accent. Really cool. Like a mama, like raspy mama energy. I love it. I haven't told this woman anything, right? We got on the phone. I gave her my name, Blue. That's it. I was super mindful of not giving her a lot of information. And I didn't want it to be like used, I wanted to like really feel into the validity of it because I'm super open-minded, but I'm also got like a really healthy sense of skepticalness. Is that even a word? Gosh, I'm going to learn so much about what words I can use in that. Skepticalness. And she just told me that she comes from a long line of mystics, psychics. Her father was a psychic, and when she was a kid, she would watch him and didn't really fully understand it, but it started coming through her, and now she can't shut it off. So she does psychic readings all day, every day, and it's all spread through word of mouth, and then she went right into it, and I swear to God, I felt like halfway through that reading, I was in the Truman Show. I thought everybody was like, people were going to jump out and be like, surprise, it's a joke. We're all being like, set this up, made it really real. And she was like naming people, like things that I've never put online. There's no way, no extensive amount of digging into me that you would be able to find this information. She's like, at one point, she's like, June, huh? So when she just passed recently, I'm like, yeah, June, my grandmother, she didn't pass that long ago. She's like, huh, she's really with you. She's very present. She said that she gave you some jewelry that is her way of communicating with you now. And she did. She gave me 2 rings. And she gave me 1 ring, which was her engagement ring, which I wear every single day. And she gave me another ring, which I did used to wear around my neck every single day, but then the diamond came out. So I have put the diamond back in, but I need to take it to the jeweler. And so I have it on a bowl on my desk. And she said, when she said about the rings, I grabbed the bowl, I picked up the ring, and she goes, it's like a golden band with just 1 diamond on the top. That's exactly what it looks like. It's a golden band with 1 diamond on the top. And she goes, oh, your grandmother's telling me that you're holding it right now. I literally just picked it up. I felt like someone was going to jump out. I felt like it'd be like, surprise, we're fucking with you, Blue. It was the eeriest, most profound reading moment thing that I have ever experienced. And in that moment, I was like, I've always felt that there is so much more going on with the planet Earth and us as capabilities of being human. And there are certain people that come in with certain gifts to support us with guiding us. Like, y'all know Matthias de Stefano. Like, that dude remembers all of his past lives. And he's one of my favorite humans on planet Earth. And he's definitely got a capability that the rest of us don't. And he talked about these different gifts as if they're different organs in the body, or different parts of the body. If you only had a liver, or you had 10 livers, it wouldn't be a functioning body. You wouldn't have a fully functioning body, right? So every single person has a unique gift that contributes to the collective global family of the health of the body of the planet. So every single person, like if I have like a liver and Bernadette has a lung, right? And then we've got other people that has different body parts, then eventually we have the whole body. So if it was to expect that every single person was supposed to remember all their past lives, it wouldn't actually contribute to the global health of this planet collectively. So everybody comes in with their own unique gifts, and everybody has a different gift. I'm 1000% sure of it. And I'm not 1000% sure of many things, by the way. But I would say I'm 1000% sure that every single person on this planet has a superpower, whether they found it or not. I truly believe it. And it just so happened to be that this woman superpower was a psychic. Like, she was accurate, and she was naming names and giving me warnings about certain things. And it just opened up my world, like, in a whole different dimension. Now, there was a whole hour of things that she told me. I'm not going to go through the entire thing, a child list of things. But there was one moment where she was like, I'm getting like eyes. Oh, you paint lions, huh? You paint a lot of lions. It's like, yeah, I paint a lot of lions, obviously. And she's like, yeah, the eyes are the windows of the soul for you. So when the eyes are in, the soul of the painting's in. And that's exactly what I always say. It's like, I always do the eyes first in every painting, because that's the soul. Like, the soul lands into the painting when the eyes are in. And she said, and flowers. I'm getting eyeballs and flowers. And I was like, eyeballs and flowers? Holy what? What is that? Like, okay, I'm just going to like have a sketch pad filled with eyeballs and flowers. Anyway, she, that night after the reading, I was at a gathering, Queen Herbie's music release party, by the way. Woohoo! She released a new album. And I'm sitting at the table talking to somebody about the reading, my roommate who just showed up at the gathering. And I was thinking about it, and I turned it over, and in the center of the table, I've never seen this before. In the center of the table was a vase, and in the vase was all these beautiful arrangements of flowers. And I looked at the flowers, and every single flower had an eyeball in the center of it. It was like a flower with just a suspended eyeball in it. And it was just like one of those, another Twilight moment of these amount of things that happened that were just like too niche, too nuanced to actually like just ride that off of synchronicity. And trust me, a good amount of skepticism goes a long way in the spiritual world. I swear to God, there is a lot of charlatans, there is a lot of phonies, there is a lot of people that are going to claim that they can heal you, right? It's just like, take it with, if not a pinch, a whole hand of salt, because it's important. It's going to be a guide to have that good sense of skepticism, because not being too gullible and believing everything. And this was just a really profound experience for me. Now, I'm not going to tell you who it was. I'm not going to give you her contact information. I'll never be able to speak to her again. I'm going to be a little selfish on this, so I won't keep that lady around. However, I'm sharing this with you. I'm sharing this story first and foremost because I have a podcast. These are the solo episodes. It's a little bit like you pop your friend in ears and just have a chat for a little bit. But also because I think that magic is real, and things that we can't comprehend with the logical intellectual mind are occurring on a daily basis. I operate more in my feminine energy, and what I mean by that is like my intuition. A lot of my wisdom is intuitive wisdom. My wisdom does not come from reading a book or from a teacher. A lot of people ask me, like, where are you pulling your information from? Yes, I've studied the Gene Keys. It's a lot of my backbone of like information of how I navigate the world is rooted from previous teachers, from technologies, from astrology. And there's so many different things that I have studied, and I absolutely will forever be a student. I love learning new things and ways of being. And life is one of the greatest ceremonies that has taught me so much. And a lot of my wisdom comes from intuitive wisdom, which is internal wisdom. It's a deep level of listening and all of us have access to it, and it's available to everybody. And the reason why I share this is because I believe in supernatural magic, superpowers. I've seen it. I've witnessed miracles happen firsthand. I've seen it with my very own eyes. I felt it with my very own body. And in those moments where I'm witnessing or experiencing after the call with my psychic, I call him my psychic, by the way, now. It's like a very possessive pronoun. Have you noticed that I've like claimed this experience? I'm like, I ain't sharing her details. She's my psychic. I'm a Scorpio. Leave me alone. I'm possessive. And it just opened me after the call into such a deep rooted sense of peace that everything is right on time. Everything's dialed. Everything is exactly as it's meant to be, and the story hasn't ended yet. And it just reminded me of this fact that 100% of the time it's worked out up until this point. In your own personal experience, 100% of the time it's worked out up until this point. Yeah, shit hit the fan and really challenging things have happened for sure. But 100% of the time, up until this point, it has worked out. And so what I got that feeling after the reading was a deep softening again into my body and into my being that 100% of the time it is working out. Okay, just allow that to fill into the places where worry, fear, anxiety around future things that haven't even happened yet to be replaced with trust. And that everybody has a superpower. And you have a superpower. And my psychic has a superpower, and Benedette's got a superpower, and I got a superpower, and my dogs have got superpowers. And what would it look like for us to be curious enough to find it and to recognize that being human is one of the most miraculous, magical things that could ever happen, ever in all time of all everness. To have this body, to have this life, to have this breath, and to open ourselves up to that which we don't know, because we don't know what we don't know. So this psychic opened me up to this dimension that was new for me, uncharted territory, but I felt my grandmother so close, and I still do. When I put her rings on, I say her name. When I sit in prayer, I say her name. When I look at her photo, I feel her presence. I feel her right now sitting with me. And this is something so beautiful that I've always felt in the core of my being, is that death is a man-made word. The energy is what our souls are contributed of. And energy can never be created nor destroyed, only changed in form. And so if our soul is energy, well, it can't be destroyed. So it can only change in form. So death is a man-made belief of the end. But I believe it's actually just the beginning of the next massive adventure of our life. And so I feel that those loved ones that have passed through are here in their own way, in their own dimension, and the conversation with them, the welcoming of them, the feeling of them, the offerings to them, the photos of them, the prayers towards them being on the altar, the mention of them when you go into a ceremony, and the intention aligned with our family of those that have passed or loved ones that have passed. They're actually there's still a presence, and I feel it. I really feel it since the session. So I just pray that story brought a little extra level of magic into your reality and into your moment. And my intention also for sharing the ritual and the solo ceremony stuff is that's not the way, that's not the only way to experience a ceremonial space or a ritual space. That is a way that supports me. And many different people have different words for it. You know, Christians will say prayer, witches will say spells. Whichever way you want to call it, right? Like I've been called all of it, by the way. Cult leader, witch, like all the things. I'm just somebody that likes to share deep esoteric and philosophical things with people through a podcast. But anyway, name it as you shall. And it's just an opportunity to tap into a deeper level of the beauty of what it means to be human and be alive, and that you've got your own unique way of doing it. So listen to your intuition. Is it crystals that you want to have around you? Is it photos of your family? Is it cards? Is it breath work? Is it movement? Is it yoga? Is it an offering? There's many different ways that you can navigate it, but trust your intuition. Allow it to guide you. Be in a deep place of listening and open yourself up to a dimension of magic that you don't know that you don't know. And while also remaining a healthy degree of skeptical nature. All right, beautiful humans. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Deja Blu podcast. I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity of being able to share some of these stories with you and just going on this little heart journey. I'm feeling so honored to be able to just chat away in your ears while you tune into this podcast. If you resonate with today's episode, please go ahead and share it on your stories. Give me a tag, give a tag to the Deja Blu podcast. And with your help, it is through you that we've managed to get this podcast out into the world and continue to find its way into the ears and the hearts of those that are ready to receive this message and be empowered in their own unique expression moving forward to spread beauty, love and unity in our own unique way. So grateful for you to be here, and I'm sending you so much love, and until next week, blessings.